What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs baseball channel. Some breaking news, more bad breaking news. It seems like every time something breaks, it's a part of the Cubs' bodies, right? Something breaking, right? Well, it's breaking this time is that Javier Assad is going to the IL. So we're going to talk about that. We'll get into that. And, the injury plague now that has run through the Cubs, and obviously a reason why this team has had such a disappointing season. We're going to do that. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Get in the comments section. This is just a quick hit, but thank you guys for hanging out with us. Go Cubs. All right, with Anthony Pasquale, I'm Mick Gillispie. Let's get into this real quick, Ant. The Cubs have now been hit with another injury, this time to Javier Assad in the starting rotation. I guess we know why there were all those TBAs, looking down the line, wondering like who's going to start. You got Wicks on the IL, you got Smiley on you got all these guys on the IL, the entire back bullpen from last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then now Javier Assad, and it's a right forearm strain, so that is never good.
Yeah, with Assad going to the IL now, that means from the original opening day roster, only Hector Neris. He's the only pitcher that has not either gone on the injured list or been sent down to Iowa due to poor performance. Assad's been excellent this year, but he's had a little bit of struggles going deeper into games as of late. And like you said, we talked about this Cubs-Giants series going in. There were a whole lot of TBAs and TBDs associated with. I thought it was because they wanted to push Imanaga back and give him a day off. Turns out it's because Javier Assad is not able to pitch. So I think obviously Imanaga goes today, probably Tyone to open the series against the Brewers, but you're going to have to scramble after that because no Wicks, no Brown, now no Assad. Hayden Wesneski just pitched yesterday. So you're going to have to figure it out now. Obviously Kyle Hendricks is back in that rotation, but that's worrisome for a rotation that's been so good.
Here's a question from there, and this is something that we certainly need to know: will Jed wave the white flag? And I guess what he means is on the season. When do you look at it and go, "Hey, let's take advantage of the buyer's market"? We're not going to talk too much about it on this video, but we do have another one coming out where we're kind of looking at the roster. But this honestly adds to this frustrating season because the Cubs just can't seem to catch a break. It started in spring training. Hap was injured in spring training. It's like every time you turned around, somebody was banged up. And then now, not having Assad on a pitching staff that is already just ripe with injury. What do you do? I mean, we could sit here and just count all the guys that are hurt.
Yeah, exactly. And the unfortunate news is the part of the corresponding move is another guy that you thought would be of help to the bullpen won't be back for even longer. Yency Almonte. There were original rumors that he could be returning this weekend, and instead his rehab has hit a standstill. They needed to talk to different doctors to get second opinions to try to figure out what's going on with his shoulder. Yency Almonte has been moved from the 15-day to the 60-day IL, which cleared up room for a roster move that the Cubs made earlier today.
Yeah, and here's the roster move. Jeff Passan was first to report that Vinny Nittoli, who was designated for assignment by the A's, signed by the Cubs. He's a guy that was actually in the Cubs organization last year. So they know what he brings to the table. Yeah, he almost made the team in spring training. They're hoping to get another Tyson Miller type guy who's actually been a bright spot, another former Cub, by the way. He was a guy that they developed and then left. So, but not a starter. So I'm guessing that Wesneski now goes to the starting rotation. You hope that Ben Brown gets back sometime soon. This is, no matter what they do, you remember the year they won the World Series, no one got hurt. Like it was like the starting rotation pitched every start
early, and then Schwarber's injury in Arizona was like the only thing that happened that was bad the entire year.
Naren says if he's not good enough for the A's, he's half good enough for us.
Yeah, that's the big concern, right? When you see a guy that was DFA'd, like it's not like he was DFA'd from the Dodgers or the Yankees. He was DFA'd by a team worse than you. So what exactly are you going to get? But I think it's more of a roster fit for the A's and for the Cubs. He's pitched 7 games this year to the tune of a 2.25 ERA. So he's been all right. Decent strikeout numbers, only 8 innings. He's pitched in parts of 4 seasons, but only has 14 2/3 big league innings. Was on the Mariners in 21, the Phillies in 22, Mets last year, and the A's this year. Now he'll be immediately added to the Cubs roster, and I believe he's on his way to San Francisco. So in theory is available as early as today for the Cubs.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, not having Assad hurts a ton too, because he's been so consistent, and it's not just this year, every year.
Yeah.
4-3 record, 3.04 ERA, 16 starts. He's thrown 83 innings, and he's been just so consistent over his big league career. He's got a 3.05 ERA and an 11-8 record. He always gives you a chance to win. He's one of those players that if he was on a team like the Yankees, he'd have like 16 wins at the end of the year, 20 wins at the end of the year, because they'd score him runs and then, just get out of the way and let him pitch. It kind of reminds me of those pitchers that the Yankees always seem to have towards the 3 to 5 spot in the rotation. You're like, who's this guy? And then he just goes out there and gets it done. But the Cubs don't have enough offense to protect any of the pitching. But now look at the rotation, right? You got Shota Imanaga, Justin Steele, Jameson Tyone. And then what?
Kyle Hendricks is now back in that rotation. So he's a guy that you, in theory, can count on to at least go out and start a game. And then you have to wonder, is it an effort to get Wesneski back stretched out to go back into the rotation where he was actually pretty good so far this season? Is there a guy in AAA that you could bring up? Is it Julio Teheran, a guy that, because they've signed so many minor league pitchers, one of them has to be able to give you starting type innings, or is it a trade that the Cubs end up making, some type of sell/buy trade where they get a guy that can eat innings, or do what the Giants did and it worked against us every 5th day, just have a bullpen game. But the only issue is Cubs have the worst bullpen in baseball, so I don't know if you want that every 5 days.
Well, they're going to have to look at the Iowa roster and figure out, who they would bring up there. That would be where they could get this done. So as we wrap up, I mean, they've got options in the minor leagues. It might not be premier prospects, but sometimes you find guys like Javier Assad at a necessity. You give the guy a chance and look at what he's turned into. So there's other guys that can pitch. It's just a matter of them getting out of the way now and just saying, hey, what's the next option? Let's see what we got. And if they start to make deals like I think they should, we're going to see a lot of that going forward, because then you got to go through your system and figure out what you got, what you're going to keep, and then what you're going to get rid of.
Right. And you hope that in terms of their rehab, Ben Brown or Jordan Wicks are getting close to coming back. Ben Brown specifically, that injury was really weird, but it seems like he's throwing. So he could be a guy that immediately answers that bell. But otherwise, you're going to have to play some plug and play to fix this rotation.
Yep. All right, guys. So that's it. Just a quick pop-up show to let you know that Javier Assad going on the IL, right form strain. Not sure what the timeline is on that, but more bad news for the Cubs as they get set to take on the Giants and try to avoid being swept by, honestly, one of the worst teams in baseball.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been pretty in San Francisco. So I'm Mick. Make sure that you guys get in the comments section. Tell us what you think. Give us options for the Cubs, and we'll talk to you after the game. Go Cubs.